somebody is not going to need any discounts because they're cashing in big. The news went pretty wide this past week that, well, there was a statement that everybody started to post again from the most recent filings report from the WWE that they basically said that we recognize that Vince McMahon being part of our organization is a potential threat to our company. And he turned around and sold like 8 million shares, or announced his intention to sell like 8 million shares. So Vinnie Mac going to be pocketing like $700 million here just any day now. What do you
but is that before or after taxes?
Well, you got to assume it's going into some sort of trust, right? Like these guys aren't just pulling cash out, and it's not going in a checking account. I'll tell you that. What do you think of this news that Vince is converting a little cash?
I don't know if it's just the way you presented the facts, because you didn't editorialize. There was no intonation that somehow you were trying to make a point subtly, but just in terms of timing, it was announced that Vince McMahon is a risk, and then he sells whatever it is, 8 million shares. Mm-hmm. Do you think that was a response? Do you think that was I'm a risk, am I? Well, screw you. I'm going to dump a ton of stock in the market and see how you feel about that.
Is that the way you took it?
It's just a thought. I don't know that Vince is bitter that way, but
timing was interesting.
That's a lot of money just to make a point, but you can't, he's still human, he's still flawed. Got that much money. Maybe it's a good fuck you. I don't know.
Of course, a couple of weeks ago, we saw, prior to the Saudi Arabian show, we saw Vince McMahon with The Undertaker at the Tyson Fury fight, and he actually did a little media. And during that interview, he referenced the new venue that had been built for the Tyson Fury fight as being the new home of WWE. Now, a lot of people took that to mean the home of WWE in Saudi Arabia. This is where we're going to run our shows when we're over here. And other people said, no, he meant they're going to try to do more business there. They're going to try to make an effort to grow WWE there in Saudi Arabia. That is the new home. Now, of course, we know at the same time, they just opened up their brand new office and brand new building. And I think they even, the day before Veterans Day, erected that 3,000 square foot flag, which is unbelievable. The largest American flag now waves over the new WWE corporate headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. What do you think? Do you think, because listen, when Vince sold that, just that amount of stock, just a couple weeks removed from that interview where he said, this is the new home of WWE, a lot of conspiracy theorists, a lot of people wearing some tinfoil hats are saying, maybe Vince is going to try to do something else with the Saudi Arabians outside of WWE. And I say, that's crazy talk. What say you?
I say it's crazy simply because I'm sure there are terms within Vince's agreement that would prevent him from competing in any meaningful way. And at this stage of his life, Vince is going to move to Saudi Arabia or be there on a regular basis. I can't see that either. But dude is a wild card. Yeah, nothing when it comes to Vince McMahon. Nothing surprises me.
Yeah.
Nothing. And I know, we're here to talk about Ted Turner. And one of the things that I want to talk about as we dig into Ted a little bit, but I'll set the tone here for a moment, is the similarities between Ted Turner and Vince McMahon.
Mm.
I've never thought about it until Derek Sabato reached out and said, oh, here's the notes. And I'm looking through the notes and I'm flashing back to a book that I read a long time ago. And I tried to find it so I could bone up on it and read it again before this interview. I think the name of the book is called It Ain't As Easy As It Looks by an author by the name of Porter Bibb. Now, there's been several biographies written about Ted Turner over the years. The most recent one by Bill Burke, who used to be the president of TBS when I was there and I worked closely with Bill. But Porter Bibb was someone who was close to Ted. I think he was a good friend of Ted's. But regardless of that, wrote the first biography. And it did such a fascinating job of describing Ted's upbringing. And there begins a lot of similarities, troubled kids, really fractured relationship. Ted, at least with his father. His father was an alcoholic, beat him regularly, tough on him, sent him to military school. And of course, we know Vince's background a little bit different, but it's kind of the same type of youth and fractured relationship with the father and all that. But Ted was an amazing visionary, and so is Vince. Now, I can't really put them side by side and say they're equal, because I don't think anybody is an entrepreneur. You look at the things that Ted Turner did, and again, we'll talk about it more in a few moments. But in terms of professional wrestling, I think it's hard to deny that Vince McMahon is, without question, a visionary. And as a visionary and an entrepreneur and a guy who refuses to be his age, with a lot of money on his hands, maybe he's going to do something different. Maybe it's not wrestling per se, but something different that's based in Saudi, or at least the operations are, and Vince will be a big part of that. That I could see, because there's so much potential there. Look what's going on with the Saudis and their investment in sports, and perhaps Vince sees an opportunity there to spin off into another form of sports entertainment or another business completely, and do it over in Saudi, because he's got the money to do it with, got the time, and he thinks he's 24. So who knows? Maybe.
I'm with you. I think he could be doing something. I just don't think it'll be a competitive space for WWE. I mean, we saw what Dana White did with Power Slap, and I know that was not without controversy, and certainly a lot of people have been critical of it, and I think a lot of that criticism is fair. However, he did an interview over the weekend where he said, "Hey, I've never revealed this publicly, but it's a $450 million company." And that was the first time we heard that. And that is Dana White's spinoff, if you will, from the UFC. Then I could see, I mean, we've seen Vince try this before with the WBF, with the XFL. Like, what is this next thing going to be for Vince? You got to assume if he's converting stock, he's either doing it to be in a pissing contest, or he's getting ready for his next play.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm a little murky, mostly because I don't follow it closely enough. But not too long ago, we're talking maybe 6-8 weeks ago, it was announced that Saudi was going to invest in a competitive MMA league.
That's right.
Correct?
Yep.
Now, just within weeks, we've seen, and I've read and listened to Dana White talking about how Vince McMahon was a key element to arranging business between UFC and Saudi. Right?
Yep.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting.
Because one would think that if Saudi was interested in launching their own MMA company, that would preclude, or exclude, I should say, UFC from doing any business with them, because why would you spend hundreds of millions of dollars bringing in your competition? Maybe Vince's position here in this mystery is that he is going to be somehow involved in the relationship that involves Saudi and the expansion of UFC in Saudi. I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see what's happening there. I know everybody is sort of rubbing their hands together, like waiting on the other shoe to drop, whatever that looks like with Vince McMahon and WWE.